This video is going to be about my experience of directed energy weapons. So, what I now know is that they have been using these weapons on me for very many years, but I can't say exactly when it started, but I know it's been very many years. However, I didn't know that that's what was happening. Okay. The first experience I had where I knew it was directed energy weapons was in 2019. I had left. I was driving from Florida, from South Florida to Texas, and in the Chrysler that I've already just mentioned, that the gang stalkers sabotaged, and it ended up having to be towed away. But the very first time, I believe it was when I was in the north of Florida, on a very beautiful beach. I think it was somewhere near, I think it's called Pensacola Beach. It wasn't that beach, but it was somewhere near. It was along that coast there. And okay, so a nice security guard had allowed me to go onto the beach. It was I think it was a private beach belonging to like an apartment complex or something. And I just talked to the security guard and I said, look, I'm not going to be here long. I just, it was hard for me to find a parking space, and I found one near here, and I don't want to have to go a long way away from my vehicle. Would you mind if I just came here? I told, honestly, I told her it wasn't going to be long, just maybe an hour or so. And she was kind and she let me. So I went on. The beach is just beautiful. It was just pristine white sand. It was just gorgeous. And I love the sea. I love the sea. But as soon as I stepped onto that beach, someone started coughing loudly. And I knew the gang stalkers were there. So I walked along the beach as far as I could away from where I'd heard them doing that. And I set out my things and went in the sea. In the sea, my legs started cramping up, but it wasn't cramp. It felt more like a spasm, really, and it was far too intense and sudden to be a normal kind of cramp. Now, I've had cramps in my life, and I normally relate them to, I haven't eaten enough magnesium or potassium or something. So I go and eat some bananas and I'm fine. But at that time, I was actually very well fed. I had been staying with a friend in Florida, and I had been on a juice fast. So I had a lot, I had enough vitamins and minerals in my body. That's not what this was. And it was like a spasm. And that was the first time I had experienced that. And then shortly after that, obviously I left that beach. and continued driving. Shortly after that, they started to do the same thing in my hands and my feet as I was driving. And literally, it's not like a normal cramp, because it's like my whole hand just spasmed up. I can't even, if I even try to do it, I can't. I can't, because it's as if my muscles were moving in ways that they normally don't, and they were doing that while I was driving, and I consider that attempted murder. Just like, and when I was swimming as well. When I was swimming, I ended up just coming closer to the shore where I knew that I could put my feet down, because otherwise I would have drowned. And I think honestly that was the purpose of that. They're trying to kill me by accident. And they have tried that in many different ways since then too. So then the next time was when I was in Galveston. I had arrived in Texas, and I went down to Galveston because I saw on the map that was by the sea and it looked nice, and I love the sea, so I went down there. And then the next thing that started happening was these very sharp pains in my ears, mostly in my ears, like in my eardrum. It felt like somebody was trying to drive a hot, very thin, sharp needle into my eardrums, like a laser. Okay. And then that wasn't just in my eardrums, that started to be in different parts of my body as well. And then shortly after that, I started living in the house of a TI in Texas City. It was Texas City. And at first it was fine there, like nothing really was happening. But then I met another TI who was homeless, and I talked my landlady into letting him stay because I felt sorry for him, basically. But that's another story that didn't end well either. But I'll tell that another time. But this is about the directed energy weapons. So when he started to live there, we both started experiencing all different kinds of directed energy attacks. The sharp pains that I had felt when I was driving, that was increased greatly, and they were doing it like in my genitals, in my vagina and in my breasts, and also in my stomach, and in my legs as well. It took me a long time to figure it out, but I much later remembered, this isn't the first time. That wasn't the first time I'd felt those pains. In fact, it had happened in England many years ago. And these are pains that had, because it wasn't regular, I hadn't acknowledged them very much. I remember just vaguely thinking, oh gosh, I wonder if I've got some horrible disease like cancer, It made me frightened. But I don't dwell on things that make me frightened. I just, I do law of attraction, and, I affirm to myself, yeah, I am healthy, whole and complete, Um, and that's how I had dealt with it. But I had remembered that, yeah, that had been happening to me for very many years. And I remember there'd been times when this sudden sharp pain had been so intense that it had doubled me over, okay, and made me scream, really. But then, but then it just went away. It didn't continue. So then here in Texas City, that was one of the kinds of directed energy work. There were many different kinds. The other kind was what I would say is what they describe as Havana syndrome, which is, um, it's a gosh, how do I put this? It's like a pressure in the head, firstly, and it's like a vibration in the head. Some TIs called that tinnitus. And it took me a while to figure out that what I was experiencing was what they call tinnitus. It's only by comparing notes with others that I would have described it a different way. To me, it's like a vibration in my head. And sometimes it was continuous, but mostly it was like pulsing, like woo, woo, like that. And it's extremely unpleasant. I mean, it really, it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. It makes you feel sick. Sometimes it affected my vision, like it made me like see dark, black and white spots, like just before you're going to vomit, or before you're going to faint, that kind of feeling. Very horrible. The vibration was very intense in the eardrums. That was the worst part for me, in the eardrums. Sometimes it